Here's your notes for day 2, section 8.2. We are going to multiply two binomials as opposed to yesterday when we did a monomial with a polynomial. We're going to multiply two binomials using what's called the FOIL method, and you'll see why. First, let's look at the two binomials. You're multiplying a 2x plus 1 times the 4x plus 3. Those are the two binomials. The plan is to try to multiply this 2x to the 4x and to the 3. The 1 also has to be distributed to both the 4x and the 3. Compared to when you just had one term, now you have two terms, which basically means you're going to multiply 4 different times. We'll start out with this 2x has to be multiplied by this 4x. It's the first one in this parentheses and the first one in that parentheses, which makes it first. 2 times 4 is 8. X times x is x squared, because you add the two exponents that you can't see there. 1 plus 1 is 2. Then you got to use this 2 again. You have to distribute it all the way over to here, where it takes 2x times the 3. 2x times 3 is 6x. Those we call the outside numbers. They're the furthest away. So we did the first numbers of each parenthesis, now we did the outside numbers. Next up, we've taken care of this 2. It's already been used twice. Now we're going to use the 1. The 1 has to be multiplied by this 4x. Well, that's where our I comes in, the inside. The two inside numbers, they're in tight, they're in closest to each other. 1 times 4x is 4x. And then the L, if you haven't figured that out already, this is first, these are last. We've got the 1 times the 3, it's the last one in this parenthesis, times the last one in this parenthesis. 1 times 3, be careful, make sure you're multiplying. 1 times 3 is 3 over there. Now there is one further step in simplifying these, because we talked about like terms before. You do see that although this is an x squared, these are each both x's, which means they are alike. They can be combined, a 6x plus a 4x, to then reveal a 10x. 8x squared comes first, 10x comes next, the 3 comes last. And you remember from previous lessons, the exponents go in order: 2, 1, none, decreasing order. None of these are like terms, so that's our final answer. It cannot be simplified anymore. That's pretty much the extent of it. We're just going to practice doing these. If you need to stop the tape or rewind it or slow it down, watch it again, do it again. Take the time to write this down. You have x plus 1 times x plus 3. Sorry, it looks like it's in a little bit of a glare right there. X plus 1 times x plus 3. First, you need to do the first numbers. You're going to take x times x. They both come first. We're multiplying. X times x is x squared. Then you need to do the outside numbers. Outside numbers, x times 3, and it's positive, so you have a positive 3x. We've taken care of that. X has already been distributed twice. The 1 needs to be distributed twice. I'll allow you, if you need to, go ahead and put a 1 in front of that x, as long as it's in your work and not in your answer. And then your last, 1 times 3, again, be careful that you're multiplying. 1 times 3 is 3. Check over your answer. The majority of the time you're going to have some like terms right here. Not always, but many times. Check and see if they are alike. Go ahead and add them together. The x squared stays isolated. 3x plus 1x is 4x. And then you have 3 over here. Final answer. 2, 1, none for exponents written in order. This one will be just a little bit more, I wouldn't say complicated, but just different numbers, and we have to deal with the subtraction signs. There's 2 subtraction signs in there. So write it carefully and do the work carefully. Get calculators if you need to. I don't want you to make mistakes just because you're working with negatives. We're going to work the first two numbers together. First in this parenthesis times first in that parenthesis. 4x times x is 4x squared. Then we work the two outside numbers. Watch here. We have a 4x times a negative 2. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8x. Then we work with the inside number. Notice every time I show my work, I use the distributive property with the 4x. I go up over the top twice. And then when working with the second number, I always work underneath so that there's not too many arrows being shown there. Check it out here. We have a negative 5x. If there is a mistake that'll be made, that'll be the most common, as most of you would distribute just a 5. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. And negative 5 times a negative 2 is a positive 10. Once again, as you check this over, you see that you have a couple of like terms. 4x squared stays in the lead. A negative 8 and a negative 5 is a negative 13. X, make sure you maintain the variable there. That's an x, that's an x. You finish with an x. And then the plus 10 at the end. Just a couple more examples to point out any other mistakes or flaws you might have here. Write this one down, x plus 3 times 2x plus 3. We're going to do the first. X times 2x is 2x squared. Then we'll work with the outside numbers. This time we're working with all positives. Plus 3x. You've got the inside numbers. 3 times 2x is 6x. And the last numbers, 3 times 3 is 9. 3x and 6x can get added together. 2x squared plus 9x plus 9. I think once you do a couple of these, you start to figure it out. Follow the pattern, the first outside, inside, last. And it's the same routine every time. Just keep track of your negatives. 4x times x, 4x squared. 4x times 5 plus 20x. First, outside. Inside, don't forget the negative. Negative 1x. Again, if you do put it in your work, I'll allow it as long as it's not in your answer. And use the negative again. Negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. Add like terms. Those two are in the middle. 4x squared plus 19x minus 5. Let me just show you one quick example of when wouldn't those two be like terms in the middle. And that would be, and you don't have to write this down, you can watch it or fast forward through it. 4x plus 3, and you're going to multiply it times 2x squared plus 5. Notice the setup is a little bit different, but the process is the same. You would have 8x to the third power. 1 plus 2 is 3. Then you would have plus 20x. Inside numbers would be plus 6x squared, and your last numbers would be 15. So just if you were curious, when aren't those like terms that we've combined them every time? Here would be an example. That's a cubed, that's a first power, second power, last power. Now if you wanted this to be the right answer, you would put it in order, descending exponents, finishing with the 15. So If you were curious, there's your answer. Last couple problems. We did find the perimeter when we were doing polynomials. Now you're finding the area. The area is multiplication, which is why we put it in this section. Remember, all of your word problems and your geometry problems and your application problems are directly related to the problems that you've just been doing. So if these are all what they look like, then that better be what your word problem looks like. To find the area of a rectangle, we're looking for the length times the width, or the base times the height. We're trying to find out how many square units fit in there. We don't know our length, but we know it's represented as 3x plus 5. We don't know our width, but we know it's represented as x plus 3. And we know to multiply two polynomials, you need to FOIL 3x squared plus 9x inside plus 5x and last plus 15. And again, if I did that too fast, rewind it. Take a look at it again. You have two like terms right there. I believe I'm a little bit out of room here, so I'm going to make more room for this. Wish you could do that in your notebook, probably. And there's 3x squared plus 14x plus 15. Now it said find the area, which we don't actually know the area, but find the area represented maybe as a polynomial. That's our area as a polynomial. Last one, and then you can get to work. As you look at this, we want the area of that also represented as a polynomial, but it didn't give us a nice even side. What we have to know is that the length of this rectangle is 4x plus 1. The length, or the width, of this is 2x plus 3. And of course you could write it as 3 plus 2x, but if you write it with the x's first, it'll be a more sequential order that you're used to looking at. Go ahead, distribute that, pause it if you need to, see what you get for a final polynomial. Your final answer should be 8x squared plus 14x plus 4. Nope, not plus 4. I did the same mistake that too many students do. 1 times 3 is 3. If that's not what you got, go back and check it over. Try it again. All right, you do have it in an assignment. Day 2, page 507, 9 through 19. See the book instructions. They are weird because they give us a different method and different ways of doing those same problems. They want you to do the vertical method and the horizontal method and the whatever method. Ignore those book instructions. We don't want those book instructions. What we want to use every single time is first, outside, inside, last. Check them as you go through them. All of the problems are odd. Do a couple problems. Look it up, make sure you did it right. Do a couple problems. Look it up, make sure you did it right. Good luck.